Imagine stumbling upon an ancient, dusty manuscript. This is no ordinary book. It holds within its pages a secret so profound, so controversial, that for nearly 2 millennia, the world has tried to bury it. What if I told you that this forbidden text completely redefines one of the most famous stories in all of Christianity? What if Judas, the man who has been vilified as the ultimate traitor, was not the villain we've been taught to believe? What if, in fact, Judas was the hero in a story so hidden, so radical, that it was deliberately excluded from the Bible? Today, we're going to uncover the shocking truth behind the Gospel of Judas, a text that has been buried, lost, and censored for centuries. This Gospel doesn't just offer an alternate version of Judas's actions. It flips everything we thought we knew about good and evil, sin and salvation on its head. Get ready for a journey that will change the way you see one of history's most infamous characters forever. When most of us think of Judas Iscariot, the image that comes to mind is that of a villain, a man who betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. This singular act of betrayal has cast a shadow over Judas's name for almost 2,000 years. In every retelling of the story, he is the ultimate traitor, condemned for his greed and treachery. But what if this view of Judas is a distortion of the truth? The Gospel of Judas, a text that was rediscovered in the 1970s and translated in 2006, tells a radically different story. This gospel paints a picture of Judas that completely contradicts the traditional narrative. In this version of the story, Judas is not the enemy. Instead, he is portrayed as the only one of Jesus' disciples who truly understood the divine plan and the necessary role he was destined to play in it. In fact, far from betraying Jesus for money, Judas's actions are presented as part of a divine, cosmic mission, one that only he had the spiritual insight to comprehend. The Gnostic perspective on salvation. To truly grasp the radical ideas within the Gospel of Judas, we need to dive into the unique worldview of the Gnostics, the early Christian group that authored this text. Unlike the more mainstream Christian beliefs that later defined the Church, the Gnostics viewed salvation very differently. For them, salvation wasn't about following rituals or adhering to a strict set of rules handed down by religious leaders. Instead, it was about discovering gnosis, a Greek word meaning knowledge. But this wasn't ordinary knowledge. It was hidden, sacred wisdom about the very nature of existence, the divine and humanity's ultimate purpose. In Gnostic beliefs, our material world, the physical realm we experience daily, is considered a kind of prison. They believed this world was created by a lesser god, often called the demiurge, who was flawed and kept people trapped in ignorance of the true divine source. To the Gnostics, this meant humanity was cut off from higher divine truths, unable to see the spiritual reality beyond the physical. Salvation, therefore, was not found in obedience or blind faith, but in uncovering this hidden knowledge. It was about breaking free from the illusion of the material world and reconnecting with the ultimate source of all creation. This is where the Gospel of Judas plays a transformative role. According to this Gospel, Judas wasn't just any disciple. He was the one who truly understood the depth of Jesus' teachings. He alone grasped that Jesus' path, including his death, was part of a divine plan to release humanity from the limitations of the earthly realm. Judas understood that Jesus' death wasn't a tragedy or betrayal, but a necessary step in freeing human souls from the constraints of the physical world. In this sense, Judas was not a traitor, but rather the essential figure in a divine mission to bring humanity closer to ultimate spiritual freedom. By this view, Judas becomes a symbol of enlightenment, one who is willing to act on a higher hidden truth, even when it meant sacrificing his own reputation. Far from being condemned, Judas is presented as a hero in this story, someone who held the key to humanity's true salvation by understanding and embracing the cosmic plan beyond the confines of ordinary perception. This perspective invites us to question the very nature of good and evil, loyalty and betrayal, and challenges us to consider whether we too might be called to seek out hidden truths that lie beyond the surface. Now, speaking of hidden truths, if you're ready to unlock secrets that have already transformed millions of lives, then listen closely. What if I told you that starting today, you could begin attracting huge amounts of money effortlessly? You can tap into groundbreaking wealth strategies revealed by a rogue NASA scientist, secrets that have only been shared with a select few. This isn't just theory. This has already gone viral, changing the financial lives of countless people. But here's the catch. Access is limited, and it's only available right now. Check the link in the comments below to find out how to get started before it's too late. Now, let's dive back into the exploration. Judas, the trusted disciple. In the Gospel of Judas, the conversations between Jesus and Judas reveal a profound spiritual connection. Unlike the other disciples who are depicted as followers who do not fully understand Jesus' purpose, Judas is the one who truly comprehends the cosmic mission at play. In one particularly striking moment, Jesus tells Judas that he is the only disciple capable of understanding the true nature of his teachings. This moment is far from the scene of betrayal we're familiar with. Instead, it's a scene of deep spiritual intimacy. Judas is entrusted with knowledge that no one else possesses. This gospel presents Judas not as someone who is lost in sin, but as a man who willingly accepts a difficult and painful role in the divine drama. His betrayal of Jesus is not an act of malice, but an act of obedience to a higher cosmic truth. He knows that in order for Jesus to fulfill his mission, he must die, and Judas's role is to ensure that the prophecy is fulfilled. His actions, in this sense, are not a betrayal, but a necessary part of the grand plan for salvation. The revelation of the gospel and its controversy. The Gospel of Judas lay hidden for nearly 2,000 years. It wasn't until the 1970s, when it was discovered in Egypt, that scholars began to uncover its profound teachings. After decades of painstaking restoration and translation, the Gospel was finally made available to the public in 2006. But its revelations were shocking. The Gospel presented a version of Judas that few people could have imagined, one that painted him as a figure of immense spiritual significance, rather than the villainous character we have come to know through centuries of tradition. Unsurprisingly, the Church was not pleased by the discovery of this text. By the time the Gospel of Judas was revealed to the world, the early Christian Church had already solidified its authority, and the doctrines of faith and salvation had been firmly established. The Church's leaders, who had spent centuries defining the official canon of Scripture, feared that this gospel, along with other Gnostic texts, would undermine their authority and challenge the teachings they had worked so hard to establish. The Church's response: why was the Gospel of Judas banned? By the time the 4th century rolled around, the early Christian Church had begun the process of determining which texts would be included in the Bible. At that time, there were many competing ideas about Jesus, salvation, and the role of his followers. The Gospel of Judas, with its radical reimagining of Judas's actions, was seen as a direct threat to the established Christian doctrine. The Church had a vested interest in maintaining unity and control over the faith. They wanted to ensure that all believers adhered to the same understanding of salvation, which was based on faith in Jesus as the Savior and adherence to the teachings of the apostles. The Gospel of Judas, with its emphasis on secret knowledge and individual spiritual insight, posed a direct challenge to this vision. If Judas was seen as someone who understood Jesus' mission and played a necessary role in that plan, then the entire concept of sin, betrayal, and redemption would be called into question. What would happen if people began to believe that Judas wasn't a traitor, but a hero? What would happen if they started questioning the authority of the Church itself? These were dangerous ideas, and so the Gospel of Judas was officially labeled as heresy, a dangerous deviation from the truth. The hidden teachings of Jesus. For the Gnostics, the Gospel of Judas was not just a story about one man's actions. It was a story about the deeper, hidden truths of existence. Jesus, in the Gnostic worldview, was not merely a human figure who came to earth to die for humanity's sins. He was a being from a higher divine realm, sent to reveal the knowledge that could free humanity from the constraints of the material world. In the Gospel of Judas, Jesus tells Judas that he comes from a higher spiritual reality, far beyond the earthly realm. This message, understood only by Judas, sets him apart from the other disciples, who are portrayed as lacking the spiritual insight to understand Jesus' true nature. For the Gnostics, salvation wasn't about following rituals or conforming to religious norms. It was about seeing beyond the material world, understanding the true nature of the universe, and reconnecting with the divine source from which all things originate. The spiritual rebellion of Judas. What makes Judas's role in the Gospel of Judas so captivating is that he is not simply depicted as a disciple or a traitor, but as a figure of profound spiritual rebellion. In this Gospel, Judas isn't just a passive character swept along by events. He takes an active, courageous role in a grand, divine drama. He willingly rejects the conventional understanding of good and evil, of loyalty and betrayal, to fulfill a higher, more divine purpose. This spiritual rebellion is a powerful concept, one that challenges not just religious norms, but the very fabric of our understanding of morality. In traditional Christianity, Judas is seen as the ultimate villain, the betrayer who sells out Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, forever condemned for his treachery. But in the Gospel of Judas, we encounter a very different Judas, one who understands that his actions, though they may appear as betrayal, are actually part of a much larger cosmic plan. Judas's decision to hand over Jesus to the authorities is not driven by greed or malice. Rather, it's a spiritual act of profound obedience to the will of the divine. He accepts this painful role, fully aware that it will lead him to be forever seen by the world as the ultimate traitor. But for Judas, this isn't a flaw. It's a sacrifice for a much greater truth, one that transcends the limited earthly view of morality. This is where Judas becomes a symbol of spiritual awakening and enlightenment. His willingness to go against the conventional ideas of right and wrong, ideas that have been ingrained in society for centuries, shows his deeper understanding of the universe. His decision is a rejection of the material world's false dichotomy between good and evil, loyalty and betrayal, a rejection that allows him to embrace a higher truth. For Judas, the truth is not always easy or comfortable to bear, but it is the key to unlocking a deeper, more profound understanding of existence. Judas' rebellion is not one of defiance for the sake of rebellion. It is an act of spiritual courage, knowing that by accepting this role, he is helping to bring about a transformative change in the world. His actions are part of a divine plan that will ultimately lead to the salvation of humanity. This divine purpose is not seen or understood by most of the world, but Judas's spiritual insight allows him to recognize it. He sees beyond the surface-level betrayal to the higher purpose that it serves. This is a key part of what makes Judas's role in the gospel so spiritually revolutionary. He becomes a vessel of higher knowledge, choosing to embrace a difficult and misunderstood path because it is the only way to unlock the truth that will free humanity from the chains of ignorance and suffering. In this sense, Judas' rebellion is not one of destruction, but of transformation. He becomes a symbol of the pursuit of truth, a pursuit that doesn't always align with conventional morality or societal expectations. His actions force us to reconsider our own assumptions about good and evil, and to ask ourselves whether we are willing to question the accepted norms and beliefs that shape our own lives. Judas in the Gospel of Judas is a revolutionary figure, one who defies conventional wisdom and embraces a path that leads to spiritual liberation. Judas's decision to betray Jesus, although painful and heart-wrenching, is a critical part of the divine design that leads to the ultimate fulfillment of humanity's spiritual purpose. His role in the gospel teaches us that sometimes the pursuit of truth requires us to go against the grain of society's expectations, to challenge what we've always been told is right or wrong. This journey may not be easy, and it may involve great personal sacrifice, but in the end, it is this very rebellion that leads to spiritual growth, higher understanding, and the ultimate freedom of the soul. By exploring Judas's spiritual rebellion, we are invited to reflect on our own lives and the paths we take. Are we willing to break free from the conventions of the world to follow a higher calling, even if it means facing misunderstanding, judgment, and sacrifice? Judas in this gospel is not just a figure of betrayal. He is a spiritual warrior, willing to do what is necessary to fulfill a greater cosmic purpose. His rebellion is not against God or truth, but for it. In his willingness to embrace this role, he offers us a powerful lesson in the pursuit of higher knowledge and the transformative power of spiritual awakening. The legacy of the Gospel of Judas. The Gospel of Judas may have been banned and hidden for centuries, but its powerful message continues to resonate with us today, calling us to rethink everything we once believed about betrayal, redemption, and spiritual truth. In this gospel, Judas is not the ultimate villain we've been led to believe, but a deeply complex and misunderstood figure, someone who grasped a deeper divine truth and was willing to embrace it, no matter the personal cost. This radical shift in perspective forces us to confront our own spiritual journeys. Are we, like Judas, being called to follow a path that goes beyond conventional understanding? Could there be hidden truths, mysteries waiting just beneath the surface that we have yet to uncover? The Gospel of Judas challenges us to ask these difficult questions and to explore a deeper connection with the world around us. It reminds us that the path to enlightenment is rarely straightforward. It is often a journey that requires us to question the narratives we have been taught, to see beyond the surface of things, and to seek out the knowledge that has been concealed from us for centuries. In a world that often encourages blind faith and conformity, the Gospel of Judas beckons us to awaken to the possibility that there is more to our existence than we have been led to believe, a call to discover the hidden truths that lie just out of reach, waiting for those bold enough to seek them. As we reflect on Judas's legacy, it becomes clear that his story is not just about betrayal. It's about transformation. It's about finding the courage to embrace a higher truth, no matter the consequences. And perhaps in doing so, we too can break free from the constraints of the material world and reconnect with the deeper divine source that binds us all together. As we move forward, we are left with questions that this gospel invites us to explore. What if Judas's actions were part of a greater divine plan? What if redemption is not simply about following the rules, but about understanding a deeper hidden truth? And perhaps most importantly, what if we too have the capacity to uncover those hidden truths, and in doing so, transform our understanding of the world and ourselves? Thank you for joining us on this journey. If you've enjoyed this exploration of the Gospel of Judas, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into the mysteries of history, spirituality, and hidden knowledge. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep seeking the truth.